everyone. I want to go ahead and thank you all for being here. My name is Jennifer Filio. I am an early childhood consultant here at Wayne Risa. And today we're going to be talking about building strong early childhood classrooms with the pyramid model. So I thank you all for taking time on your Thursday afternoon to be here to get some great information about how you can really start your year out strong. Just to kind of get to know who I have here today and what your roles are, if you'll just take a quick minute and put your position, the program you work for, and the number of years you've been working in education in the chat. Thank you for being here, Juliana. 30 years, you've put in quite a bit of time. I'm right there with you. I don't like to say the number, but I'm pushing 30 as well. Welcome, Christine. Thank you for being here. Summit Academy North. I'm not sure where that one is located, but glad to have you here. 26 years, Amy. Wow, you've been here. You've been around for a while too. Glad to have Wayne Westland representing Romulus. Thank you, Christine. I'm still getting to know all of the programs in the county. I'm not from Wayne County. I grew up in Oakland County and now live in Genesee. So while I work in Wayne County, I'm still kind of learning my way around. All right, I'll let you guys continue typing and putting your answers in the chat, and we'll just keep moving along. All right, we've got a packed agenda here today. We're going to start out by, we did our icebreaker. We're going to talk a little bit about the pyramid model and just a quick reminder of what it is and how that works. Then we're going to talk about building relationships with children, especially at the start of the year, why that is so important and what you can do in order to make sure you're creating those authentic relationships with children and their families. Next, we're going to talk about the classroom environment, making sure that you've got a successful classroom environment and establishing routines and transitions to make sure children are aware of what they're doing and can proceed through your daily routine. Then we're going to talk about our program-wide expectations and rules. This has been an initiative we've started since last year, trying to get all programs to set program-wide expectations and rules. We're going to talk about how to create them, teach them, and then reinforce them. And then finally, we're going to have a wrap-up at the beginning where you're going to think about one thing that you want to do to really make sure you're starting this year strong. And then we'll talk a little bit about what other upcoming professional learning we have coming and have some time for questions at the end. We've had a couple more people come in, so I'm going to drop the attendance link one more time. And, oh, we're going to start with our icebreaker activity. You can either go to menti.com and put in this number, or you can scan the QR code with your phone. And I'm going to have you answer the question, think about a classroom where children seemed happy, confident, and successful. What made it feel that way? This is my first time using Menti, so hopefully I've got it done correctly and I can navigate it. You guys are all my guinea pigs. Chantel, hey, good to see you here. I didn't see your name on the list. I'm glad you're joining me today. And Chelsea from Summit as well. Thank you for joining. Congratulations on your move to the classroom. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go into the Menti and see how we're doing, see if we're getting in. Ooh, we've got a responder. Nice. Teachers are engaging positively with the children. Yes, those adult-child interactions are super, super important. So we got 5 people in, so that tells me that it's at least working properly. Routines, absolutely. We're really going to talk a lot about that and how important those routines are for children to understand. Children working together. I love that. Engaged in what's happening in the classroom. Engaged children are happy children and are also children who are not engaging in challenging behaviors because they're busy otherwise. Consistency. Very, very much so. Super important. Oh, your phone's not allowing you to comment in the Menti. That's okay. If you want to just drop it in the chat, that's fine as well. Children are free to explore and create with lots of materials and space to work. Routines are taught to provide independence as they work. Awesome. You guys are on top of it. So many great answers. Trust with adult and peers. No fear of making mistakes. Children know what to do. Gotcha. Yes. Another great answer. All right. But one more minute, see if we have any other answers coming in, and then we'll keep cruising along. I love that no fear of making mistakes. That's so important. All right, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. Children feel safe to explore the room, right? We want children to feel like the classroom is their own space and they're able to be an active part of the classroom. All right, I did it. Let's all celebrate for a minute that I figured out how to use Menti and got in and out of it properly. Yay! I'm always nervous when I use new technology, but I did practice it like 3 times. So I was like, I think I got it. All right. Thinking about the pyramid model, most people at this point have heard something or know a little bit about the pyramid model. But just a quick overview, the pyramid model practices are designed to ensure that children have support, experiences, relationships, opportunities, guidance, and instruction, all the things they need to thrive in their social emotional development and learning. So what we know about the pyramid model is it's really preventative focus. So this isn't about what do we do after the fact, but what are we doing and teaching ahead of time to make sure children can really be successful. Creating that classroom caring community that you guys have already hinted in your Menti responses, where children feel like the classroom is their space and they can be free to learn, explore, and make mistakes, and making sure that we're honoring all children with equity, inclusion, and belonging. So today we're really going to focus on that tier 1 of the pyramid, which is those high quality supportive environments and nurturing and responsive relationships, and how if we really hit those 2 strong at the start of the year, as much as 80% or sometimes even more of potential challenging behaviors can be addressed and diffused right at that first level. So thinking about creating that classroom community, what does it look like to have a caring classroom community? There's really 3 things that go into it, and we're going to be talking about all 3 of them today. So the first is that supportive environment, not only the classroom space, but those routines and transitions and everything that makes the classroom feel safe and predictable. Positive caring relationships. So we'll be touching upon caring relationships with the children, but also with their families as well. So we want to make sure that the children feel like we care and appreciate them, and we want our families to feel the same as well. And then making sure every member is supported and valued. So does everyone that comes into your space feel like a space that is supportive for them, and like who they are as an individual is really valued in that space? And of course, when we put all those 3 things together, we end up with a classroom that promotes acceptance, belonging, and membership for everybody. Okay, so we know that positive care and relationships are foundations for all learning. We've talked about children feeling safe, feeling valued, feeling loved. And in order for children to be able to be successful in the classroom, that is really important. So how do we ensure that every child is feeling loved and valued? And we can do that through 3 different things. The first is creating that classroom community. The second is promoting a culture of kindness and peer relationships. So not only are we being kind and supportive to children, but how are we teaching children to treat each other in that same way? And then the final is building those meaningful relationships with families. We're going to dig a little deeper into each of these 3 topics. All right, starting with our classroom communities, we want to make sure that all children are able to see themselves and their background in our classroom environment. So what kind of materials and books are we providing for children so that when they sit down to read a story, they see children in the books that look like them and families that represent their own families? Are we making sure that our classroom environments have pictures of children? We have family pictures up. As you move through your classroom, it's a really great idea to put pictures in each area. In the Black area, put pictures of children standing and smiling proudly next to things that they have built. Or in the art area, children proudly displaying their own artwork. So not only are we displaying the product of children's work, but also we're displaying their process and showing pictures of them engaged in their classroom. Using your daily schedule, having not only the pictures of the daily schedule, but are you including pictures of children partaking in those different parts of the day? I am going to, again, drop the link in the chat for the attendance. We've got a few more people joining us. I'm just going to kind of keep dropping that as we go to make sure we catch everybody. Another thing that the pyramid model really focuses on is having classroom helpers instead of just arbitrary classroom jobs. So making sure that the things that we're asking children to do really make them feel like they're helpers and they're valued in the classroom space, and what they're doing is really helping to contribute to the overall community of the classroom. So a couple examples are having a classroom greeter, someone who's going to greet the children and visitors as they come in every day. Children love being the ones to, give their friend that high five or say hi. I'm sure you all have seen through the internet and different resources, all the videos that have been posted where children are the classroom greeter, and they might have a poster with different options. Do you want to do a high five? Do you want to do a dance? Do you want to do a hug? Things like that. And if you're doing something like that, just ensuring that you make sure that some of those items are also items that wouldn't require contact. Not every child wants, a hug or a high five or to touch their friends. So making sure they have options where they could do a dance party or a wave or a smile so that they can greet each other in a positive way, but a way that feels comfortable for them. A solutions helper. We're going to talk a little bit more about solving conflict and solutions. So having children have the opportunities to be the one that brings over your solutions cards. I always hate trying to show things with the background, but if you have like the solutions cards on your lanyard or in the classroom where children can, when they have a conflict, pick how they're going to solve it. So if you have a solutions helper, when they see that there's a problem in the classroom, they can be the one to bring over that basket or that lanyard or whatever it is to help their friends to work through a solution. A new friend helper, there's always those kiddos that come into the class year late. So or into the classroom later in the year. So do you have someone who's going to be the one to greet them and kind of show them around and help them find the schedule and where to put their things? And then thinking about the different parts of your day. A circle helper, is there someone who could, pass out fidgets if you use them at circle, or get all the kids their carpets they sit on, or during mealtime, having children who help to put the food on the table, or who bring the plates, things like that. So making sure that when you have classroom helpers instead of jobs, they're things that really do help that flow of the daily routine and are going to help you as well, because the more the children can do to help you, the less you have to try and do and run around when you're already busy. The final thing is using intentional and playful interactions to build relationships with all children. And this we're going to really dig a little deeper in, because it's important that we're really ensuring that we're building that relationship with every child in the classroom, especially the children who is having challenging behaviors or is having difficulty in adjusting to the classroom routine, because a lot of times they're the ones that are going to really need that meaningful relationship the most. And sometimes that can be hard to build, especially if you're feeling challenged by a child. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. How am I doing so far? I know sometimes I talk too fast. Is my speed okay, or am I too fast? We're good. Perfect. Okay, I'm trying really hard. All right. So this is a really important quote from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. The importance of a child's close relationship with a caregiver cannot be overestimated. Through relationships with important attachment figures, children learn to trust others, regulate their emotions, and interact with the world. They develop a sense of the world as safe or unsafe and come to understand their own value as individuals. So being able to understand, do I feel safe? Am I going to be okay in this space is really, the foundational piece of that is the attachment and the relationships that are built. So children are able to find their own worth and their own value when they can see that other people value them. All right. I'm going to back up because I did forget to say at the beginning, I am going to have an email come out later in the week after tonight, and I will share all the slides with you. So you will have all of that information. And as I'm talking, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I can either address them right away, or if it's something that we want to come back to at the end, we'll have time at the end for questions. So if you think of anything, please go ahead and put it in the chat. Okay, so here's some of the things that those relationships with the children really promote is that social emotional competence. So preschool is such an important time for building those social emotional skills. Children aren't always coming to us being able to relate to others, to express their emotions, to be able to manage their emotions when things are difficult. So we're taking that time to build those really important social emotional competences through the relationships we're building and the skills we're teaching. Also, again, like I said, that trust and safety. If I don't feel like the adults that are in my space care for me and want me to be there, then I can't feel safe in that space. So when I know that when I come to school, Miss Amy is there for me and she loves me and she's happy to see me there, then at that point, then I can feel safe and I'm able to learn and build relationships because I know that I'm going to be okay. It's hard to be open and learning new things when I'm worried about, am I going to get yelled at? Am I going to be in trouble? Am I going to be told that I can't sit in this space or I can't touch this material? So when I feel safe, I can have that opportunity to explore, to make mistakes, like some of you had said earlier. Um, and all of those important things that we want children to be able to do at school um, can only be done when they truly have that sense of safety. Um, it is so important that those connections are built with every child in the classroom, even as when it's difficult to make that connection. There are always going to be children in the classroom that it's super easy to connect with. They come in and they're huggy and they're lovey and they're happy to see you every day. And that bond just builds very easily. And a lot of time that's because that's a child that's coming from a home where there are lots of really healthy, strong, safe attachments. And so that child views adults as a safe place and they're excited to be at school. There are going to be other children that are going to come in and they're going to be shy and they're going to be detached and it's going to be harder to have those conversations. There's going to be children who are coming in whose primary language may not be the same one that you speak. So that actual communication piece is difficult. There are going to be children who are going to come in and they're going to push your buttons every day. And sometimes when you're just feeling frustrated because you're dealing with the same behavior over and over, and you've said the same thing a million times, it's really hard to feel that loving connection and bond with that child. Um, but I'm here to tell you right now, building that connection is going to be the easiest way to begin breaking down those challenging behaviors and to start seeing more acceptable existence in your classroom space. So the thing that is highly recommended is to intentionally plan interactions to build connections with those children who you're having difficulties building relationships with. I know that when I was in the classroom, I found that I very quickly bonded with the 6 children that were sitting in my small group because every day I sat and had multiple meals and snacks with them. I sat and did activities with them during small group. So I saw them over and over and I had lots of conversations with them. But sometimes the kids that were in the other small group, especially if they were the ones with the difficult behaviors or the more withdrawn personalities, I wasn't having that chance to bond with them as well as I could the children that were my own small group. So what I would do is I would plan, all right, today during choice time, I know that Christine and I haven't really had some really good one-on-one interactions. So today, wherever she chooses to play, that's going to be my area. If she's in the house area, that's where I'm going to be. If she's in the art area, I'm going to be there. And I'm going to be just playing with her and having those natural conversations and asking about the picture she's drawing and why she decided to use the blue crayon to draw that piece of her picture and just building those connections with children. As you learn more about the pyramid model and get into tier 2 interventions, those targeted one-on-one times are actually an intervention that we recommend for children who are struggling. So there's something very real to be said about saying, okay, this is my 10 minutes or my 5 minutes that are going to be given to this child to make sure that I'm building that connection. And the research is there to back that. So making sure, and this can literally be planned when you sit down to do your lesson planning. You're going to say, to your co-teachers, all right, today my goals are this child and this child. You said you're not as connected with that child. That'll be your goal. And so you kind of know what you're doing to make sure that every child is feeling that connection. All right. The next piece is building that classroom culture. Does the classroom truly feel like a community? We use that word classroom community all the time, or that phrase. But what does that really mean? When you think about your community is your place you live, your place you engage in recreation, the place where your friends are. It's a place where you feel connected and secure and happy. And so that's what we truly um, want to be able to build in the classroom. Nada, I see your comment. I will get back to that at the end. We'll figure that out. So we want to make sure that all of the children are truly feeling like the classroom is a place that belongs to them. I always made sure that I didn't use the phrase my classroom, but rather our classroom, because it wasn't about them coming into my space. It was about the room being their space. Um, and so when you're planning your activities and materials, you want to make sure that you're allowing children opportunities to work together, to interact with each other, to have those social connections, to take turns. All of those friendship skills and social emotional skills we want to practice, you want to make sure that you're really building those opportunities into your space. Again, allowing for children to practice those positive interactions and conversations. We're going to talk a little bit more about how we intentionally teach those up front. But then once children have kind of learned, how do I ask to enter play, or how do I ask for a term with a material? Are we giving children opportunities to practice those skills? And are we there to support and scaffold if they're having challenges? Making sure that children have opportunities to play collaboratively. So when you're building your classroom space, are the areas big enough where multiple children can play together in the space? Are there toys that encourage children playing together? Things that would be something you could work together. Can we work together to build, something? Do we have enough blocks that we can build a large block structure? Or do we have space at the easel that multiple children could collaborate together on a painting? Do we have games and toys that children would be able to play collaboratively? And then encouraging children's conversations throughout the daily routine. A big time that this is really super easy to do is during meal times. You'll find that when you sit at meals, the children all want to talk to you. They want to tell you about things. They want to, talk about what they did last night, or what their sister said to them, or, what happened on the playground. So when you're having those conversations with children, instead of just having 6 one-on-one conversations or 8 one-on-one conversations with the children at the table, refer the children to each other. Did you hear that Chantel said that she was at the park yesterday? Has anyone else ever been to the park before? What kind of things were at your park when you went there? And referring children back and forth to each other so that they realize that they can have those same back and forth interactions and conversations, serve and return conversations with children like they do with adults. Um, of course, you're going to have children who are going to need additional support. So there's going to be a lot of reasons for that. It may be because they don't have the same level of language or communication skills as someone else, or their language may not be the same. Or they may be children who might be on the autism spectrum and really have a difficult time with those interpersonal interactions with children. So when there's children who need additional support, we want to make sure that we're not only supporting that child, but supporting their friends and understanding how to communicate. If you have a child who's communicating with an AAC device or some sort of communication board, have you told the other children what that looks like and how that child uses that to communicate, so that the other children are able to also communicate using that device and not just the teachers? Um, and then, of course, you want to model that positive descriptive feedback. We're going to kind of dig a little bit deeper into what that looks like as well. So making sure that we're acknowledging what children are doing and their kindness towards others by using very descriptive statements, and then encouraging children to recognize and acknowledge their kindness in one another. So when you're sitting down for your recall at the end of your choice time or your work time, are you asking children, what is something you did to help someone else during choice time today? Or what did someone do that made you smile during work time? So not only talking about what children did, but taking opportunities to intentionally recognize when children are kind to others and when the other children are kind to them. And the more that you have those conversations and recognize that, the more the children will start to recognize it in each other, and you'll start to hear the children acknowledging each other's kindness. Also with your co-teachers, saying things like, Mary, I appreciate that you swept the floor while I was getting the kids ready for a large group. That was really helpful. Giving that positive feedback to your co-teachers as well, so the children see adults interacting in those same kind of give and take positive interactions as well. All right, so here's a little bit more about that positive descriptive feedback. Um, there's a couple principles to it. The first is that you want to make sure that when you do this, you're focusing on positive or appropriate behavior. So this is not going to be a good job or a way to go or anything like that. It's really going to be looking at what was that positive, appropriate behavior that you saw, a very specific example. So when you look at the quotes here, Layla, you put the toys in the bin, or Diego shared his cars with Logan. That is a very specific, appropriate behavior that I was able to observe. I'm not saying I like the way you put the toys in the bins. I'm not attaching my own value to it. I am just making a descriptive statement of exactly what the appropriate behavior is I saw. And you want to make sure that you're not only acknowledging that effort and saying what you see, and you're saying it with enthusiasm, but then you also want to talk about the impact that it has on the classroom space, right? So the second piece, Layla, you put your toys in the bins. You're being such a helper. Or Layla, you put the toys in the bins. Now they won't get stepped in on the floor. Or Layla, you put the toys in the bins. That's really going to make sure that your next friend knows how to find them. So you're not only acknowledging exactly what they did, but you're letting them know how that helps that classroom community that we've built. Diego shared his cars with Logan. He's being a kind friend. Diego shared his cars with Logan. The two of them can now play together because they both have a car. So the more that you use that positive descriptive feedback, the children are going to start to really see, when I do this, it impacts others. This is how. This is what other people are getting out of the actions that I'm making. When I share the PowerPoint, I will also be sharing a resource folder, and this linked resource, the recommendations and considerations for positive descriptive feedback will also be included. So you'll be able to read a lot more about what that looks like and how you can implement it in the classroom as well. Okay. All right. The next thing we're going to talk a little bit about is building those relationships with families. And it's important that when we do so, we're connecting with each and every family within our program. Again, just like the children, some of them are very easy to connect with, and some of them you may have more difficulties. They may be more removed from the experience that their child's having at school. They may have a lot of other things going on in their life where they don't have, as much of that mental capacity to be part of the process. It may be a child who's either in a before or after care, so you're not seeing that family regularly, or they have a different person who is dropping off and picking up, so you're not connecting with them in person. But making sure that you're finding ways to connect with all families, recognizing that families all have strengths and that they're equal reciprocal partners. They are giving you the ultimate honor of trusting you with their very important, precious little beings. So they really are bestowing an amazing honor upon you by saying, this is my person, this is my love of my life, and I'm going to hand them to you for 7 hours a day. And I trust that they're going to be safe and secure with you. Also, because they've had that child their whole life, they are the experts on their child. The way a child acts and engages in a classroom environment, a lot of times it does look very different at home. So encouraging those conversations with families to say, this is what we see at school. We're wondering about how that's different at home, so that you guys can have a collaborative conversation in any situation. You also want to make sure you have a welcoming classroom environment where families feel like you want them to be part of their child's experience, including formal and informal opportunities. It's important to recognize that not every family who is enrolled in your program may have necessarily had their own good experience with school. A lot of families come to us already have had their own bad experiences, whether it was their own schooling or a previous child who might have been in a different program who didn't have a great experience, or stories they've heard from friends. And so sometimes families come in with some hesitancy about being part of the classroom environment. So making sure they understand that you really want them there and you really want them to be involved in their child's education is really super important. Through the GSRP program, we do have built in a lot of different ways that parents can interact with us and with their child's classroom, through having those home visits and conferences. So we have those structured communication opportunities, family engagement events that may be planned, um, classroom volunteering, all of those options. So just recognizing that it's important to have both some formal and informal opportunities. So I see a lot of teachers welcoming families in March for reading month to come in and read a story with a child. Um, or again, those formal conferences and home visits. So lots of different ways, but recognizing that not every family is comfortable coming in and engaging in the classroom in the same way. And they may or may not have a job or a schedule that allows them to come in and participate in the same way. So as a parent who English might not be their primary language, being invited in to read a story to the class might not feel like a comfortable opportunity to participate. But maybe coming in and sitting with my child during a story time, or coming in to be part of a choice time or work time, or even coming in to play on the playground. So making sure that when you're thinking about how those families are going to be allowed to come in and participate in the classroom, we're really connecting with the families to see where their comfort level is. You might have families who have professions that they would really love to come in and share. I had a parent who was a firefighter and one who was a yoga instructor, and they were very happy to come in and have a large group activity where, they shared their work with children, or families who have come in and shared their history or their background or their family celebrations with the class. I had other families who said, I don't really, I'm not an early childhood person. I'm not good with, big groups of kids, but I'd love to come in just at the start of the day and sit down and read a book with kids as they, are coming in a more informal setting. So really thinking outside the box to make sure that the opportunities that you're offering really can reach all families. Also making sure that you're maintaining those two-way communication with families. We are really, as early childhood professionals, really good about communicating what's going on. We send newsletters, we, send papers and folders. We have, the Remind and the Dojo and the Cambo and all of those different apps and ways that we communicate with families. Have we ensured that we let families know that we want them to communicate back with us? Do we have a system that's set up with a two-way communication? And are we honoring preferred methods of contact? So we're in a very interesting place now where we have families who are raised in very different ways. Some of our older families are still learning how to use some of the technology and the apps and the communication in that ways, and still would like to have a good old-fashioned phone call. We have some of our younger families who give me an app, let me send a text message. I don't use a phone to talk on a phone. Some people who still really want that piece of paper that I can, put on the refrigerator so I can see what's coming up next in the coming month. Some people want to have it digitally so they can input it into a Google Calendar or an Outlook calendar or something like that. So making sure that we're asking families what is their preferred method of contact. I've heard so many teachers say, oh, I send the emails, I send the emails, I send the emails, and no one ever responds to them. I don't know about all of you, but I probably get anywhere between 20 and 100 emails a day. So if I don't know that I'm looking for an email, I'm probably going to miss it too, no matter how diligent I try to be. So just making sure that what we're using is going to be best for families. And then also finally making sure we're asking and honoring families' short and long-term goals for their children. GSRP really sets this up in a great way with having those home visit and conference conversations where we're partnering with families to fill out their IDP forms and say, this is the goal that we're going to work on through this next period of the school year. But when you go into those meetings, making sure that you're going in with an open mind. I'm not going in to say your child needs to work on cutting with scissors and writing a capital P and waiting for their turn with a toy. I'm going in and asking the families, what are your goals for your child? What do you want them to get out of school this year? And then really sharing. And sometimes that might take some reframing, right? So when you ask the family what their goal is and they say, I want my child to be able to read a book by the end of the school year. And we might have to back them up and say, that's a really great goal. I hope that your child really becomes a successful reader too. Let's think about where they're at right now. Are they recognizing any letters? Well, no. Okay, well, let's start there. We're going to really start looking at letters and playing with letter sounds because we really want to work together to have your child enjoy reading and become a great reader. So, making sure that you're listening and hearing, and then if you need to, reframing to make sure that the goals both fit what the parents want for their children and what's realistic for their child to achieve. Make sense? Good. Okay, moving on. All right. So when we think about a supportive classroom environment, we talked a little bit about that beginning. There's really those four pieces that are going to make sure that the classroom is a supportive place for children to grow and thrive. The first is going to be their schedules and routines. So we're going to talk about using visual schedules and routines within a routine to help children understand their expectations. We're going to talk about setting up a classroom with clearly defined interest areas. We're going to talk about making sure that the classroom is stocked with ample materials in all the areas of the classroom. And we're going to talk about planning for and implementing transitions that reduce wait time and increase engagement. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into each of these four elements. All right, the first is schedules and routines. When you have a visual schedule that is posted in the classroom at a level that children can see and contains pictures, it helps to provide a predictable schedule for and structure for the day. So it helps children understand what is expected of them and they can expect what's going to happen. So if I know that every day when I finish my small group, my teacher is going to ask to make me to make a plan and I'm going to be able to get up and go play, then I'm going to be able to know that when I'm coming to small group, that's the time I need to sit down and do my work at the table. But I know that pretty soon it's coming that time I get to play. If sometimes we play before small group and sometimes we have small group and then we go outside and then we come back in and play, I don't know when it's going to be the time that I get to go, in the house area and take care of my baby doll that I left there yesterday and is really waiting for me to come back. So I might be trying to go there throughout the day when I'm supposed to be doing other things because I don't know what's expected of me. And I know that I really need to check on my baby because I laid her down yesterday and haven't seen her since. Um, so having children know what that daily routine is, it reminds that children what they're supposed to be doing. You have children that are wandering the classroom. You can refer them back to that schedule and say, let's go look at the schedule. We just turned over choice time and we're all done with that now. So what do we do after we're done playing? All right, it's time that we're going to clean up. Let's go see where we can find something to clean up because I can always refer children back to that schedule because I'm moving along the day and they can easily see what is coming next. Also, if there's going to be a change in the schedule, we live in Michigan and Michigan weather always does what Michigan weather does. So if I know that we're going to be dealing with blizzards or snow or a rainstorm or high winds or all those things that are probably all happening in the same day here in Michigan, let's be honest. And the children aren't going to be able to come outside, but we do have access to a gym, but that's at a different time of the day. So we have to switch things around a little bit. I can let children know first thing in the morning at my morning meeting or at my message board time to say, hey, guess what? Did you notice the weather when we came in today? It was really, really cold. So today we're going to go to the gym. And children learn real quick. So if they've done this enough times, they'll know, oh, we always go to the gym after breakfast when usually we go outside after cleanup time. So they'll be like, yay, after breakfast, we're going to the gym. Or, oh, we're going to do an obstacle course in the classroom, whatever it may be. So when we let children know about those changes and we prepare them for them in advance, it's going to make that transition go a little bit more smoothly. Because if I'm trying to gather kids who are used to going right from breakfasts to make their plan and go play, and now they're not going to play because we have to go to the gym and I'm trying to gather them back and rein them in, then things become chaotic. But if I've let them know right off the bat, guess what? This is what we're doing today, they'll be ready for it. And of course, it's going to increase engagement in the routine. If I'm not spending as much time telling children where to go and what they need to be doing, I'm going to be able to be engaging with them and they're going to be able to participate as well because it's less like herding cats and more like having a cohesive classroom space. Um, And then using routines within routines. Sometimes we have to really break down um, all of our different daily routines because if we think about something like start right at the start of the day, when we come in the door first thing in the morning and we do arrival. Arrival is one nice, neat, easy square on our daily schedule. But what are all those pieces that go into arrival? We have to come in, we have to take off our coat, we have to hang up our coat, we have to open our backpack and take out our folder and our water bottle. Then we need to close our backpack and hang it up. Then the folder needs to go in my mailbox. Then my water bottle needs to go in the water bottle basket. And then I need to come in and I need to wash my hands, which means I need to get soap, lather my soap, turn on the water, rinse my hands, turn the water off, grab a paper towel. And then I'm going to go and sign in, which means I need to get a pencil, write my name, take my paper, put it in my mailbox, and then I'm going to go sit down at the carpet. So that one square that says arrival has about 20 different things that children need to do. So when we have those routines within routines, here are the steps when I'm at my locker. Here are my steps when I'm washing my hands. These are the steps to sign in. It helps to break down those individual pieces of really complex parts of our daily schedule. And posting those visually is really can be very, very helpful for children, especially children who may have some sort of processing difference that make multi-step directions difficult. High energy children who want to be everywhere doing all the things every time and might not be able to slow down and focus on one task. Children who may be timid and are really just, wanting to cling to an adult that can help to say, hey, we're going to do this together. Here's what we're going to do. So beneficial to a wide variety of children. All right, the second is that classroom setup. This is a really great time of year to talk about it because y'all are just getting in or about to get in and get those classrooms set up and ready to go. I know I was always like on the phone with my principal, like, hey, are they done doing the floors now? Have they finished this? Can we come in? Is the paint dry? Just anxious to get in and get ready to start for that fresh new school year. So when you're setting up your classroom, you want to make sure that your room is set up into those clearly defined interest areas. And what those are is going to depend on what your curriculum is, right? Because all the curriculums have a little bit of a different expectation for the classroom environments. But generally speaking, we're going to want to make sure that our block area and our dramatic play or our pretend area have very large spaces. Our messy areas like art are going to be, and our sensory tables or sand and water tables are going to be near to a sink. Making sure that we're using names for interest areas the children understand. Some of the curriculums do have provided interest area names, but if your curriculum doesn't, am I calling it the investigation station or am I calling it, the science area, right? So thinking about what the words are for the area that the children are going to be able to understand and using those same names consistently, right? If my house area is called dramatic play, every time I talk about it, I call it dramatic play. Or if my science shelf is my discovery area, I'm going to always call that my discovery area so that we're always using consistent terms so children know where those different areas are. And you want to make sure you're establishing those visual boundaries. And some of that is along with the next one, thinking about those fixed items and traffic flow. So am I using shelves or tables or rugs to make it very clear so when you stand in any one place in a room, you can look and say, yes, I'm definitely in the block area right now, or this is the book area, or this is the quiet corner. So really being thoughtful when you're positioning those fixed elements, the furniture, the movable materials. And you want to make sure that you're planning those interest areas so the types of play are accommodated. So I want to make sure I know that blocks are the busiest area in my classroom. So do I have enough space that there's going to be room for many children without blocks getting knocked over in conflicts? I also know that that's the largest or the loudest area in my room. So I'm making sure things like my cozy corner and my book area are moved farther away from those so children can have their quiet spaces that are separated from the loud blocks. And then making some modifications throughout the year, right? So shifting some of your toys and materials so that the classroom continues to stay new and interesting, because new materials are one of the quickest ways to get children re-engaged in a space that may be starting to feel stale. So while you're doing that, just make sure you're continuing to consider your classroom coach materials checklist, because you don't want to rotate out those components that your ECS or ECC might be looking for when they come in to do your assessment, but making sure that there is a variety of different types of materials that are engaging for children. All righty, moving right along. Ooh, not moving quite as fast as I thought I was. It's okay, we'll get through it. The next thing that you want to think about is making sure that you do have those ample materials. So do I have enough materials that many children are going to be able to play together, especially if it's a high interest material? So if I know that those cars are the most popular thing in my classroom, do I have enough that, a bunch of children are able to all play together and have multiple cars because you know one car is never enough for each child. So do they have enough that they've got at least one car in each hand and that third that's tucked into their lap and their friends can still play? Or do I just maybe only have 5 cars in the area altogether? So making sure, especially when you know you have a high interest material, making sure that there's enough for everybody. And now's a really great time for that as well, as we're establishing budgets and classroom materials and things like that. So if you know, magnet tiles are the biggest toy in my classroom, all the children play with them and they're always fighting because we only have 7 triangles. You might want to be talking with your administrator and saying, hey, this is something that I might need more of for my children to be successful this year. Making sure your materials are grouped by use and function. If I have the paper over here and the pencils are over there and the paint is stored over here, for a child to be able to do an art project, that's going to be very difficult. So are the things that they need to do certain type of plays all together? And then is it labeled for easy retrieval and cleanup? When we think about cleaning, cleaning is the ultimate test in sorting and classifying, which is a skill that we know preschoolers are still learning. So if I've dumped 7 baskets on the floor and I'm just told to clean up, this is like the biggest sorting and organizing task that I'm just not cognitively ready for. And I'm overwhelmed that I'm shutting down. So now I'm running around the classroom pushing my friends. But if I have a basket and I can see on the basket that this is the car basket and my teacher hands me one basket and says, can you find all of the cars? Now I have an easier focus. I have a visual to know what I'm doing and I can begin to participate in that cleanup. And then, of course, if the shelf is labeled, I know exactly where that goes. So when we need to find the cars tomorrow, they're going to be in the same place. And then making sure their classroom has a wide variety of materials, including real materials. So instead of those toy replicas for dishes or food or brooms and dustpans, do we have actual real materials that children can use? You know, do you have hair dryers with the cords cut off and real good old-fashioned, you know, landline phones that children can make phone calls on, things like that. So children can actually see real actual materials instead of just the toy replicas. Open-ended materials that can be used in many different ways, such as blocks and I don't know, all kinds of fun things. And then loose parts are materials that are just kind of naturally gathered items that can be used in many different ways. So things like bottle caps and corks and like the little wood Jenga pieces that you can get from Dollar Tree where you can just put them in an area and children can decide what they are. Cut up pieces of string. Really give children an opportunity to engage and use their imagination, which I think is something that children are really struggling with these days. So the more you can provide them materials that don't work in just one way, the more that they're going to really be engaging that imagination and really coming up with some creative play. I think the ultimate open-ended loose part material is an empty box, right? We've all given kids an empty box and it's a train and it's a truck and it's a grocery store and it's all of the things. So giving children opportunities to use that imagination. And then planning for those transitions and reducing wait times. So when you're doing your lesson plan, do you have a plan for when you leave large group? Today during large group, we're going to ask the kids to hop like a bunny or fly like a fish. We're going to call letters of the name. And if your letter starts with this name, then you're going to, move to this area. Are you giving children an engaging activity when you make that transition? If children are getting ready to wait to go outside, especially in December, there can be a huge amount of wait time because that first child has their snow pants, boots, coats on and is ready to go in 2 minutes. And that last child's going to take 20. So are you engaging that first group of children that are ready in some kind of song or finger play or rhyme? And when you have enough children ready, are you getting those kids outside or are you making them sit and wait till the last child is ready to go? So really thinking about how children are engaged and how much time they're expected to sit and wait. Children spend as much as 30% of their day in transitions. So if you think about it, if we're not utilizing those transitions for engagement and learning opportunities, then we're really missing almost a third of the day's instruction time. So how can we really key in and make those times meaningful for children and encourage as much of their independence as we can through those times? Are we using visuals to remind them what order they get their stuff on to go outside so they can start working on their own and they're not standing there with their boots on asking you for help with their snow pants, right? So all very important things to make sure that children can transition well through the daily routine. All right, the next thing is program-wide expectations and rules. And if you're an administrator here, then you've probably heard about this. And if you're not, just know that your directors or leaders or coordinators have been hearing about this since the start of last school year. This is something that should be set up program-wide so that everyone in the building is working under the same language as far as expectations and rules. So if your program has not yet set up program-wide expectations and rules, I'm going to give you homework to go back and ask your leadership team about that. But what this is a set of expectations and rules for each area in the building that everyone is expected to follow. So once you create them, you want to make sure those posters are displayed where children and adults can easily see and reference them. And we're going to be making sure that we explicitly teach children all of those expectations and rules throughout the program, and then reinforcing them and recognizing when children are following them. So we're going to kind of go step by step through that. I'm going to have to move a little bit more quickly because I'm sharing a lot more than I did when I practiced. So expectations help children learn how to interact with their peers in their environment. So this is things like be kind, be safe, be a helper, be respectful. Those are going to be your expectations. Rules help children to understand the behaviors that they have to engage in different activities. So be safe might look like staying with the class in the hallway, but it might look like not running in the classroom. So the rules are going to be dependent on the space where the expectation is being held. And if the children are taught those expectations and rules in tandem, they're going to help to develop those social emotional skills. So earlier when we were talking about that positive descriptive feedback, letting children know you helped the child with this, you are being a kind friend. So that is the what they did and then that expectation that they were following under. So when children understand what's expected of them and develop those social emotional skills, we're less likely to see them engaging in that challenging behavior that might need some tier 2 or tier 3 support. So the behavior expectations apply to everybody, to the staff, to the children, to the guests, to the custodian, to everybody that walks into your building. And they create that shared focus with consistent language. So everyone knows that our expectations are be safe, be kind, be a helper. And every adult is going to use that language. So whether I'm in the hallway with my speech pathologist, or I'm in the classroom with my classroom teacher, or I'm on recess and another teacher is talking to me, I'm going to hear the same language. They're always going to be communicated positively. So this isn't going to be don't run, don't hit. It's going to be, use walking feet, be safe, things like that. And it's letting children know what they can do to be successful, right? It's easier to do what you need to do when you know what you're supposed to be doing. So again, not only telling them what they need to do, but why it's important. Using our listening ears is being respectful of our friends. So if my rule is be respectful, I know that using my listening ears is a way to do that. Walking in the hallway is important because it's being safe. And then the rules give you those specific expectations for the setting. So again, they might not apply in every setting. So if my circle time rules are be ready to listen and find a spot just for you and face towards the teacher, that's going to be very different than what my rules are in the hallway or in the bathroom or, out on the playground. So the rules are really going to key into those specific areas of the building. So what we've asked of the directors, and now we're asking you to go back and ask them about, is that you start by creating this expectation and rule matrix. And if it's something that you want help with, you can always speak with your ECC or ECS, and they would be happy to give you some support in completing this. So you're going to start by thinking about the different areas of the building where you might need rules. Some people have busing, some people have an inside gym. There's all different places based on your building and your circumstance. So you want to think about all of those different spaces. Come up with your 3 expectations. So in this example, it's show respect, stay safe, and we are team players. So what does respect look like in each of the different spaces? So you're going to be coming up with 1, at most 2 rules for each space, for each expectation, because we want no more than a total of 6 on the entire poster. And then once you've worked together as an entire program to create this, you'll be giving it to your ECC or ECS to ensure that everything's in line, and then it will come to the reset team and we'll create beautiful visuals for you. So something like this. This is Allen Parks. They've graciously let us use it as an example, but these are their 3 expectations and their rules for the classroom space. And then our reset team would create this visual, which we'd send back to your administrator, and they would send out for printing so that you could display it throughout your building. So that's kind of how that whole process works. And once you have those expectations and rules, they're just wallpaper if we don't talk about them and teach them, right? So we want to make sure that we're talking about and reteaching, like, what are the rules? What are some examples of what it looks like to walk? What does it not look like? Making sure you're defining keywords. If I say safe hands, what are safe hands? What are my hands doing if they're safe? And then make sure children are understanding. And then practice the rules. So give children opportunity. All right, everyone, we're going to stand up and I want everyone to show me what walking feet look like. All right, now let's try. What does it look like if we're not being safe and we're running? Is that a good choice? No, that doesn't look safe. Let's see what would happen. Making sure you're referring to the rules through the days. As you're in those transitions, remind the kids of the rules. Remember, we're going to go line up to go outside. Our rule is that we don't walk it or we don't run in the classroom. And if children are not following their rules and expectations, redirect them. Remember, our expectation is that we're a kind friend. Are you being a kind friend? And remind them. And then giving that positive descriptive feedback when the rules and expectations are being followed. So we talked a little bit about that earlier. Making sure you're telling the children what they're doing and what the benefit is. And again, linking, we talked about that as well. How do we link the rules to the expectations? If we're moving slowly, we're being safe. So you want to make sure that you teach and reteach. This is something that you're going to keep doing over and over throughout the school year. I had a teacher that I was coaching, and still the last week of school, every time they got ready to line up to go outside, she was reminding them, remember, in order to stay safe in our classroom, we have to make sure that we walk and we keep our eyes open so we don't run into our friends. Because kids get excited every time they're going outside through the whole school year. So continuing to remind and teach those rules and expectations can really help to set your kids up for success. All right, where'd my picture go? The picture is gone. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about a lot of things in this 1 hour that we've had together. We recognize that every single section we talked about can be a half day to a full day PD. And we've worked together as our reset team, which is our behavior support team, to come up with a very comprehensive selection of course offerings through the school year. So we have our tier 1, 2, and 3 trainings. We have a lot of trainings around that big 6 checklist that we do at the start of the year. So how to teach expectations and rules, talking about kids' brain states, global perspective, which is about the active supervision, interactions and environment. We've got conflict resolution classes. We've got teaching friendship skills, supporting anger and rage. So lots and lots and lots of different opportunities throughout the school year. So this QR code does link directly to this document. But again, also as I share the resources at the end, I'm going to share the link to the document. This whole catalog has QR codes that go right to Learning Stream to register. So it's all set and user friendly for you. So if you or your staff that you support or your co-teachers or anyone on your team is really looking for either just some professional development or has something specific that you are really focusing on, please feel free to join us. We've got lots of great offerings. We've been working really hard all summer to make sure that we're really setting you up for success. All right. I am exactly 1 minute over right now. So if you need to go, I completely understand that. If you want to just take a moment and think about something that you're going to implement in the fall to ensure that you set yourself up and the children you care for a successful year, go ahead and jot a little note to yourself just as a quick reminder. If you want to drop it in the chat to, let everyone know what your focus is, we can, as a team, we can hold you accountable. If not, I really just want to thank you all for being here. I am going to stay on for a few minutes if you have any further questions. When I share the slide deck, I will share I love all the hearts. Thank you. It's very kind. I will share my contact information. So if you want to come back and ask me questions as you get the kids in the classroom and you're like, whoa, I thought I had this set. Now I'm struggling. I'm happy to help you. Again, also your ECS and your ECCs are there to support you as well. I am doing several of the trainings in the catalog, so it'd be great if I get to see you again. And I am going to, one last time, just drop the attendance in the chat in case you guys did not get it. Please make sure you do so. Oh, Amy, have fun with popsicles on the playground. There's the attendance link in case you hadn't filled it out. And I just want to thank you all for being here. And have a great start to your school year.